The following presentation is a gift from the team at Streamline Publishing, publishers of Fine Art Connoisseur, Plein Air Magazine, and weekly newsletters Fine Art Today, Realism Today, Plein Air Today, and American Watercolor, and events, the Plein Air Convention and the Figurative Art Convention. We offer over 400 different art instruction tutorials and ultra high-quality video by the world's leading artists. If you like what you see, help us support our artists and our team with your purchase. Each video aired has a special discount code for today only in the comments section with a link to the video offered. And to see everything we do, or if you want to receive notice of new releases, new products, and new events for artists, simply click the other link, which says, see everything we do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric Rhodes, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine. Today, a brilliant artist, Zhaoming Wu. It's called Sunlight.
I'm going to working on close figure painting stuff from today. Well, and also combining with more environment and a situation. That means just more than just a figure, which is I need to consider environment, background, different situation, putting together. And also I'm going to using photo reference to working on that. Normally, I inspire from a photo, analyze photo and pick the things and pick the elements which is able to allow me to composing a painting. So I could be moving the things around. We organize the shade and the object in the composition until I'm satisfied for the composition. And also when I'm using the photo reference, I would like using different same pose and same type of the subject. I should the different exposure, and that means I can see different value scale on the same scene, same picture. So here, it's the way I take the photo, and using digital camera, change the value scale, using different exposure to shoot at the same model in same scene in the same about same time, you know. So it is pretty sure overexposure, underexposure, that kind of regular exposure, but that little bit lighter than this. So that particularly that case I'm using 4-piece. So you can see regular. You see something light side, something shadow side. So that's probably going to my main reference. Otherwise. Sometimes the shadow part you don't, still too dark, you don't see information here. So I can look at that photo. So you can see a lot of information because it's really light in the shadow. So you can see a lot of detail here. So I can, whenever I need, I'm using that for the shadow, putting on here if I don't see enough information here. And otherwise, because you see the light side wash out so much on the overexposure photo, so you lost the information on the light side. So going back to see the underexposure photo, you can see pick up more information on that. So I'm using the full information, but that's the main reference. Whenever I need to pick the things from here, pick things from here to adding on here for my painting. Plus, I do using a computer. I do using a computer, which is a very good tool because I can I can zoom out and zoom in. You see, particularly if I want to see the detail, I can zoom very close up. Can see all kind of detail. So I'm using both picture, computer, so can see different information in different exposure and can see close up very fine detail. So get all the information. Before start painting, I normally working on the thumbnail sketch, which is basic from the photo reference to we composing that particularly, but a thumbnail sketch only consider the basic shape. For instance, I'm using that photo, but so many detail here. But on the thumbnail, you need to avoid putting too much detail. More consider basic shape. I think it's more abstract design on the painting. Located the shape on the right place or the place you deserve on the canvas. Number one, I pick up the triangle shape, which is that big shape. So find out the direction of the sunlight. That's the pattern. So create the big shape and two big shape connect together, and also find out the light, the direction, how to connect to the figure. So divided the few different shape. So that's the idea. And plus, using the curved line to remind myself going to be in the whole working process, which is the gesture of the figure, and also bring some kind of the organic quality for that geometric shape. So the combining both geometric shape and organic shape all work together. Basically, we're using the reference is working for the painting. But reference, I want to say the reference, just reference. We need to reorganize that. We need inspire from the reference and analyze the photo and consider what kind of elements we can use, what kind of painting elements we can using, and to composing the painting. And like normally, I think things come by the pair. When you see, what's that mean? Things come by the pair, which is when we see the dark, we need a light. When we see the black, we see the white. When we see the warm color, we need a cool color to make the warm. We see the positive shade, that means we also consider negative shade. We see geometric shade, we need organic shade. So the things like that. In the big shade, small shade, you need some area more really complicated and detail. Another part can be simple and not so much detail. Things like that. So the things come by the pair. It's contradiction, but unify altogether, become the harmony to making the painting. The tool I'm using for the painting, 3 part: brush, medium, palette arrangement. So number one, talk about the brush. For sure, I love the big brush. 1.5 inch big for even small painting, small as 1620 or even 1612. It's good good for blocking the bigger area quickly, faster, and help the unit team. Plus, force myself, don't see the detail in the particularly in the beginning stage. So that's very good too. Of course, medium size brush, and very tiny small brush, such as you can see comparing the painting will be using both big like this, small like this. So that's the brush. And also frame brush. I using quite a lot of frame brush, not only for blending the edge or get soft on the surface of the painting, but I using that for painting as well. And of course, painting can be different way to using the brush. All kind of brush you can using different way to use. That means you can using the brush painting directly that way, or you can painting in the sideway or the corner to paint to create very fine, nice, sensitive edge. So that's the I love the frame brush. Same thing also, even the big brush you can paint directed that way, or using corner pen to become the point to working on the painting, create a variation of the brush touch. And also I'm using flat square brush, not more than the round brush. Basically, I don't using round brush. Of course, different people have different way, different hobby to using the brush, but that's my way. Second thing, medium. Medium, using very traditional medium, turpentine, linseed oil. I put this mixture half and half, around 50% of turpentine, 50% of linseed oil. And also I am probably today going to using turpentine in the beginning for the sketch. Turpentine dry pretty fast, but after dry, it's get really dull on the surface. But I'm using that for underpainting, so pure turpentine. And also probably today, after the first layer, I'm going to use second layer and third layer. I'm going to using probably only linseed oil. Why? Normally, I don't just using linseed oil. Using linseed oil can make the painting dry slow. This probably going to take 2 or 3 days to finish the painting. So I have to if overnight after today I back to the painting. Somehow I want that still wet, so I will be able to continue paint on wet. So I might using mostly turpentine, particularly if you're using refined. I'm going to using linseed oil more after the sketch. Particularly refined linseed oil, it will be keep the painting wet for a long time, so you can always painting wet on wet. So this turpentine only for underpainting, dry fast. Linseed oil and turpentine mixture. But normally I love this. Normally I'm using the mixture half and half to paint. But sometimes I can using a little bit different way, different medium for particularly the piece. Someone using liquid, but I'm not really using liquid much. Doesn't mean the liquid is no good, but just I get used to using a mixture of turpentine and linseed oil. Well, palette. discuss a little bit palette arrangement. Principle to arrange my palettes. It's two. Number one, from light to the dark. Number two, from warm to the cool. Particularly the color Titanic Red, Cadmium Yellow, Cadmium Orange, Cadmium Red, Ultramarine Crimson, Terra Rosa, Burnt Umber, Van Dyke Brown, Sap Green, Cobalt Violet, Cerulean Blue, Cobalt Blue hue. That is ultramarine. So basically I'm using that color for my painting. So that's about the tool. And plus I do using palette box, which means have a cover. After I finish the day, I cover that, clean up the center part, and cover that and keep that still wet. I can using next day. I think working well for me. Before I start painting, I would like to take a moment, look at my reference, almost like a meditating, to think about how to working with the reference, and try to get inspiration from the photo, and particularly the mood, and using something I got from the life to associate some idea I want to achieve for my painting. Because I believe each painting have idea, each painting have life. So make the become have life, you get some idea. Idea is the soul of the painting. It's the spirit of the painting. So of course, still have some technical things consider, how to lay out the shade. That's I already explained in my thumbnail sketch. Okay, I take a breath. Think about my painting. Using a small brush, start sketch, and a turpentine only. Holding the brush, I love to holding the tip of the end of the tip, because that's cover bigger area, very flexible, a lot of freedom. So it's very sensitive touch, make me have a lot of sensitive touch, rather than holding this way, rather than this way. Of course, when I get the detail, we find the detail, I might hold that way, but or hold this way. But normally I start freehand, Van Dyke, brown. Get myself comfortable. even. That's I was using maybe the brush is let me see. I should using even smaller, much more sensitive. Okay. Number 0. Number 0. It was, I think, number 1. Brush number 1. So number 0. So basically, lay out some big shade, pretty abstract, but very much consider not only the positive shade, which is the figure, but also consider negative space, the negative space, how to divide it that. And of course, set up the high point of the figure, the space to the edge about inch or 1.5 inches. You know how much space bottom here, left and right, and lay out the few big shade. You know, so that's according to my thumbnail study to using that. And now, of course, that's only roughly lay out the shade here. When it get on a little bit more specifically on the figure, we'll have maybe moving the things around a little bit, but not too much away from the initial layout. Or comparing very initial touch, there's more organic shade in the inside the geometric shape. So geometric shape boxing the organic shade here. When you see the organic shade, you need much more sensitive to feel the gesture. When we're painting the human's form, the gesture is almost like a spirit of the movement. The gesture it's important elements and a critical element for the human's form. So the gesture here beside the outline the figure, but also consider inside the movement. So the head tilted that way, and the body that way, the hip, the bottom part moving here. So that curve almost almost like S. So that's something you need to find out for the painting, and keep that in your mind. Already look at a little bit about the computer. But most of the time I look at a computer monitor is when I using detail, not the beginning because I don't need a detail. Actually, better don't look at the detail in the initial stage. Using a lot of medium. Now I go to the painting. Normally I have consider about 4 different stages to finish one painting. How much time spent at each stage really depends on individual piece. Beginning stage, initial drawing, and even blocking 2 value, light and shadow, using just 1 value or 1 color. So that I consider that is a 2-dimensional approach, 2D approach. So the initial drawing. Don't think about, even we working on representational painting, the form and the 3-dimensional form it's good to chord elements we need to consider. It's most critical thing we need to consider. But in the beginning, don't think about that. Make the things simple and become more and more complicated later. So keep the simple, see the big shape, gesture only, no detail, blocking light and shadow, divide the light side and shadow side, and you see the shape, not the form. And after you satisfy that, you can move to the advanced stage. This I consider second stage, building the form and the volume, and for the painting, the larger form, larger plane. So getting like sculpting the basic volume for the sculpture, things like that. And also one thing I forgot to mention, in the beginning also, of course, consider the first stage, consider the composition, the design, how to lay out the shader. And third stage, refining the detail, working on the edge, things like that. And the final stage, getting back to the simple again, consider unity, we connecting the initial idea behind the painting and see that the idea, the concept, the mood you want on the painting is still there or not. Because you already set up the mood and the idea, concept for the painting. So the final stage, you need to reveal that and see that the idea is achieved well or not. So they're basically 4 different stages. Sometimes the first stage take maybe 10 minutes or maybe more, depends. So that's, I think that basically divided 4 stages. Of course, you cannot really clear from cutting where to start the second stage, where to start the third stage. They all connected, related, but approximately in beginning, first stage, you see about 2-dimensional things like that. So now I go to working on still the first stage, blocking simple value, light and shadow, using almost not consider color. Using earth tone, sometimes burn umber, sometimes Van Dyke brown. Van Dyke brown is darker than burn umber, but much more transparency. I love that color. That's Van Dyke brown. Give the dark accent. It's more wash on the darker area. So idea, give the dark accent on the field spot, and also cover all the shadow, no matters form shadow, cast shadow, all together, or even the local color of the dark value on the subject. See that as one, because I already say two value, so that means only light and dark. Approximately like this. Just marking the value light and shadow, not really painting that, marking down this. Well, I don't really see the reference this moment on the right side, the lower corner have any shadow here, but it looks I need something darker here for the corner, so I adding on here, and it might leave that until finish. It might change. There's some small thing we are not really sure how should be putting on the painting. So the painting, each painting is adventure. So we don't know exactly the result, but we set up the goal, we set up the idea, approach that. So will success, or maybe sometimes you get difficult, so we have to change the things. But otherwise, because adventure make this painting really exciting. using even bigger brush. Quickly wash off. Just so I'm using turpentine only in that stage, it will be dry pretty fast. And really thin. Pretty much just wash.
What kind of canvas are you using?
Yeah. The surface of the canvas, I talk about that. Canvas, I don't have a very specific of the blend canvas I'm using, but I really much consider the surface of the canvas. I would like using smooth surface of canvas, not rough. I feel a lot really easier and comfortable when I'm painting on that kind of surface. I feel a lot of freedom and can showing more brush stroke and can see the track of the brush stroke better and the feels better. Of course, someone using really rough canvas, they love that, but not me, you know.
Gesso or oil?
The surface, for the small size canvas, I purchased from a supply store. That means which is already make canvas. I think most they using acrylic gesso, not oil gesso. But myself, do the big painting, I stretch the canvas, cotton canvas. I gesso by myself, using probably 4 layers. And first layer and using sandpaper sand that, and second layer and sand that, third layer sand that, and last layer and sand it again. I like a smooth surface. That's why I sand every time. Refine the shade again. Or maybe you can using scramble. We call scramble touch. I mean, less medium, almost like a dry brush. Scramble. Basically, layout, that's considered the first stage. Located the shade and according to the idea of the design, composing composing the shade for the composition, and lying down. Actually, slightly because I'm working on it's more figure in the environment and still Asian environment. So I'm using a little bit more than one level, one value, a little bit second level of the value, a little bit lighter to create suggesting atmosphere for the painting. But however, that's really much just under painting. That's the highlight, so I indicated that. And then I'll go to start color. Start color. Painting, we have considered using the value and the color, and believe if you are more focused drawing, somewhat that means you have to sacrifice a little bit color. If you more focus color, and somewhat you have to sacrifice a little bit drawing. So you cannot put drawing and color exactly the same level to dominating the painting. You have one thing over another, or another thing over another. And also, a different stage maybe have a different consideration. For instance, that stage I consider shape, and then when I color, I don't consider much drawing. Because when you consider too much about the drawing, then we're getting lost the sensitive of the color. Drawing is more logical thinking, but color is not. So if you're too much thinking about the drawing, I'm sure you will lose the sensitive of the color. So in that stage, when I color the painting, I don't think about my color, drawing. I think about the color, sensitive color, putting everything there. I want it, depending on what I feel it. And then after that stage, I consider drawing to building the form and the detail. And somewhat there will be kill a little bit about the color. But in the beginning, because I even exaggerate a little bit color. So after you using, after I consider drawing, maybe reduce a little bit intensity of the color, but maybe just right. So it's how to balance in between the drawing and the color. It's depends the piece, depends particularly in the individual case, it depends the idea, the concept, the mood, and the atmosphere, and depends on different stage. The key of the painting is related to the mood. The key, they have two different considerations. One is the value key. One is the color key. Value key can be low key, high key, or middle tone key. But particularly that piece, because I am painting the sunlight hitting in the figure. So the mood, I think, pretty can fit using somewhat high key quality on the painting. And also the second key is another important key is color key, warm and cool, and this also controlling the mood and the atmosphere of the painting, effect of the overall the painting. So you need feel about that, think about that before you really painting on that, particularly before you color on that. So according to the situation, the light from a big window hitting on the interior of the figure and floor, I think should be also I consider using warm color majority to dominating to create the atmosphere of the painting. So the light from left hitting over here, the color relationship also we need to consider. So the shadow bar is dark, but the pretty warm sunlight, really intense warm sunlight, hitting on the ground, and bounding to the figure, shadow part figure. So that means even warm line, but in the shadow part we see most is warm color here. on the shadow part because the reflection, the light bouncing back over here, except on the shoulder, on the shoulder here, because directly not get the sunlight on here, but we see the skyline, so that's blue. So the shadow part was blue over here, and particularly, and also over here, a bit on the skirt over here. So but overall it's warm. So that the shadow part have two different temperature of the color, but it's really good to using that because a warm color showing the plane facing over that side, the cool color showing the plane turning to another side to create the turn. So that means using the temperature of the color plus the different level, the value, to creating the plane change. That means give the form for the figure. So that it's very good way to using that cool and warm. And also because the cool and warm to create a complementary color, give more action, more contrast for the color. And the light side is because the light side hitting by the warm light, normally we see the warm light, for instance, if the figure under the artificial light is warm, you see orange, zero orange on the skin tone, but the sunlight is so bright, so that means really intense light wash out all the color, wash out the local color. So become actually comparing the shadow part, most of the shadow part actually even slightly cooler, but not really get to really cool color on the shoulder here blue, but comparing is cooler because the intense light wash out the color. That means you don't really see the color. The light comes from here, hitting on the both sides of the figure, so almost like a wrapping the figure. So help me also create or suggesting the round form. So I will using both and also create a very elegant, graceful gesture on the core shadow shape. So that's a little bit idea about using the color. So based on that, now I go to more basic on what I feel, what I see for the color, not too much thinking, because I want to mention colors depends on your how you sensitive or what you see rather than what you think, rather than the logical thinking. Using a brick brush, I think that's pretty good brush, pretty good size brush to use. In that stage, I start using actually linseed oil. And mixture 50-50 in the beginning, actually using both pure linseed oil and 50% turpentine and 50% linseed oil. Two different can of the medium I'm going to use. A little bit more body of the pen comparing the very first layer. Warm. Try to using less white color on the shadow, most in the particularly beginning, because too much white, there will be getting too chalky. So you want to pick up the lighter level, you can use more yellow color, replace white color. Less doesn't mean none. Less white doesn't mean none, but something just touch a little bit. That's too much white already. Exaggerate color a little bit in the first layer, because later on the second layer will be covered that the color getting a little bit more subtle. I'm going to working on close figure painting stuff from today. Well, and also combining with more environment and the situation. That means just more than just a figure, which is I need to consider environment, background, different situation, putting together. And also I'm going to using photo reference to working on that. So now I go to working on still the first stage, blocking simple value, light and shadow. Let's Van Dyke. Give the dark accent. Remember the fan brush. I'm going to blending somewhere a little bit. I was using the fan brush to pen, particularly light side. Now I'm going to blending. The painting has been done. So normally I would like to say in the high key painting, I would like to focus on the shadow part because the light side so light, you don't have much chance to pick up the detail. Which situations you're using high key or low key, it depends the subject matter, of course, depends on light. Also, a lot of people consider create illuminating the bright light to using big contrast about the values. I think sometimes they just get a wrong idea. For instance, here I have a two photo. You can see that is, I take the photo at the same time by using different exposure. The lower one, big contrast, but I don't feel the light enough here. So don't make the mistake, try to make the shadow really dark to create the intense light. I would like to say using intense color, but bring the level, the light on the shadow, create the light illuminating the subject. So I think that's the right way to using the value contrast for the key to the painting. That's a little bit idea to using the color and the value for the key of the painting. I hope everybody enjoy watch my working on the painting, and thank you. You watch.
Well, that was Zhaoming Wu and Sunlight, and you can learn more about that video at lilyartvideo.com. Remember, we have a today-only discount in the comments section. I'm Eric Rhodes. Thanks for watching.